Are you guys done coughing so we can record?
It wasn't me.
Fucking Alice. You done?
He's dying. Shit, are you okay, Alex? We just recorded his death.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Ooh. Thank you for listening to Remake Rewind, the podcast where we decided remakes or reboots should have happened. I'm Mike, as always. With me, I've got my two mediocre co-hosts. I've got Double D. How you doing, Double D?
I'm good, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Oh.
Yeah, we've got Alex. How are you doing,
Hello.
Alex?
I'm doing all right. Little
Good.
dying over here.
Good. I'm glad. Good. Anyway, we are recording a brand new episode. Very, very special episode. I'm very excited to talk about the movies that we're covering. Who wants to tell our listeners what we're covering this week?
We are covering The Lion King and The Lion King.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I was really excited about this episode all year. I've been looking forward to it because
Me too.
Lion King was one of my favorite movies growing up. It was my second favorite Disney animated film behind Aladdin, which we are obviously covered earlier this year. And this one, the remake I was more excited for than the Aladdin remake because the trailers initially for Aladdin didn't look great. Even though I ended up enjoying that film, I was really excited about this because Jon Favreau did an amazing job with The Jungle Book, and I just figured this was going to be a slam dunk. So I was really looking forward to it, and I was really looking forward to rewatching the animated one because it's been several years since I've watched it.
Yeah, I agree. I love The Lion King. It's definitely one of my favorite movies ever, just for the nostalgia feel. And as I recall, this is definitely one of the first movies I ever cried in. And it happened again.
A couple funny things about the animated version. So I don't know exactly what year it came out, the re-release in 3D, but they re-released this movie in 3D sometime between 2010 and 2012 when I was going to UC Davis. And Gears of War 3 was going to be coming out, and I was going to go pick it up at the midnight launch for it at GameStop in Davis. And Katrina was filming a YouTube video or something like that, so I needed to be out of the house, so I figured I'd go to the rock climbing gym, because when I went to UC Davis, I rock climbed pretty much every day. I actually helped teach the rock climbing class in UC Davis. So I was like, oh, I'll just go to the gym. Show up at the rock climbing gym, and they were having like a seance or fucking something like that. They were like chanting. They were in a circle. People were like swinging candles around and shit. So I was like, never mind. I'm going to walk across the street to the movie theater and see what's playing. And Lion King was playing. So in 3D. So I sit down and watch it. And as soon as the sun rises. I don't know the actual words.
Sing it, Mike. Just sing it.
I don't know the
It's
actual
beautiful.
words, and I don't want to be offensive and just say random
Too late.
syllables.
You're always
So-
offensive.
Anyway, I bawled like a baby right at the sound. Like, sing it again in the movie theater. I just like teared up. I had that single man tear, and then when Mufasa died, I straight up
Oh,
bawled.
God. Oh, my heart.
God. And then, so for the podcast, Katrina's parents were in town. We were all going to drive down to San Diego this weekend. We just got back yesterday for a family reunion. And I mentioned that I needed to watch these movies for the podcast. And my mother-in-law mentioned that she'd never seen The Lion King before.
What?
And I was appalled. And so I forced her to
As
watch
you
it, and
should
she
be.
loved it. So yeah, I had a great time watching the animated film again. And Alex, we haven't heard you talk about the films. What do you remember? What's your relationship with the movie? How do you feel going back to it?
I remember liking it as a child. I definitely think well, funny thing is, like, I was watching it, and I think it dawned to me, like, I listened to the soundtrack more times than I've actually seen the movie, to be honest.
It has a great soundtrack. The music in the animated film is incredible.
It was really good. It was really good.
Yeah, Hans Zimmer and Elton John did the music originally, and it's great. The music still holds up. The Elton John versions are great, which obviously are not the versions that are in the movie. And the movie versions are great. This movie was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, animated films of all time. And the thing that's crazy about it is this was not the A team, quote unquote, for the animators. Disney was doing this movie and Pocahontas at the same time, and they were gambling on Pocahontas, thinking Pocahontas was going to be the bigger movie, and it wasn't. It kind of
Hell
had
no.
mediocre reviews, mediocre reception, and it was a good movie. But The Lion King was I think it won some Academy Awards. It was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
So good.
How do you guys feel
And
about these live action remakes in general, though?
I'm gonna let you guys answer first because I've soapboxed on this podcast twice about these live action remakes in general.
You know, at first I was a little apprehensive, like, why are these being made? They definitely don't need to be made. Just bring me out another cartoon and I'll be happy. But actually watching these, I'm really enjoying almost all of them. So I'm happy it's being done.
I agree. And, my soapbox really quick, I'll give you the truncated, abridged version, is a couple things we need to consider. One, unfortunately, hand-drawn animation, even as good as this one, this is arguably the best hand-drawn animation movie out there. I think
So good.
you even go back to, some of the other ones, Beauty and the Beast, which we did cover on this podcast before you guys joined. There are some issues with the animation where Belle's head changes shape and size. The animation in this is consistent. It's really good, and it's still super sharp, especially when I watched it on Blu-ray. It was super crisp and looked incredible, but unfortunately, hand-drawn animation is just not... It doesn't bring people into the theaters anymore. So 3D is the way to go, so you have to do something for the modern audiences. And I think that's important, that kids get to see this story on the big screen. So this isn't just for us. Obviously, there's a nostalgia factor.
Wait,
but it's also for the next generation.
Is it true that they made this because the rights were going up soon or something like that?
No, Disney owns the rights to The Lion King straight up. Now, there is some controversy around the story, which we can get into that. Do you guys want to talk about the controversy before or after we talk about the movie?
I don't care.
What say you,
We can do
Alex?
it before. We already mentioned it.
All right. So basically, there was this Japanese TV show called Kimba the White Lion.
Yes,
I think it was
do
called.
remember this. Yeah.
It had a rock formation that looked a lot like Pride Rock. The bad guy also had a black mane. So a lot in, obviously, Kimba and Simba sound a lot alike. Now, that cartoon was a little bit more anthropomorphic, and, he would stand up on his hind legs and, box people and stuff like that, or box other animals. So, it's not a direct, story. The stories aren't even similar, but they have, obviously similar names, and the lion having black hair. Although, when you think about it, if you're doing a movie about lions and you're going to have a bad one, what are you going to do? You always make the villain wearing black of some kind, and it's an animal. So, to me, I could see why people were confused and upset by it. But also, I don't think... The thing I think is most damning is the Pride Rock thing. Because it's the exact
just a
same.
natural rock formation. I don't know
Just
what you're
naturally
talking about.
happens
Right.
over artists' renditions.
All right, so I think we should summarize this movie and get talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
And then I do think we should I think we should go through the first one pretty quickly, because inevitably we're going to start when we talk about the newer one, we're going to compare it to the old one. So I think we'll end up circling back quite a bit. So I think we should just breeze through the first one.
I'll give us a short summary, just to get through it real quick. All right, this one's from Kenneth Chisholm. A lion cub crown prince is tricked by a treacherous uncle into thinking he caused his father's death and flees into exile and despair, only to learn in adulthood his identity and his responsibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very condensed, but most of it.
Treacherous.
They left out the Scar, who's trying to rule the land with Iron Paw.
I like that.
I gotta
I
say,
like that one.
I think Scar is probably my favorite of the Disney animated villains.
Because Jeremy Irons, he's so good.
Jeremy Irons is so good. He's good in everything. He's in a lot of bad movies, like Aragon. He's in... I'm trying to think what else. He's in bad movies.
It's a terrible movie, but I like it.
It's a terrible... Batman v Superman. Terrible,
He was
but he's
great
great in it.
Yeah.
He's great. He always has good performances. He's in a movie called Beautiful Creatures with Emma
Roberts.
Fuck. No, Emma Thompson. Emma Thompson. Not what the Emmy Rossum. I love her. She's in my top 5. I don't know why I brain farted on her name, but this was supposed to be the next Twilight film. The movie's terrible, but it's really entertaining. It's got Aaron Einreich, who went on to be Solo. And Jeremy Irons is the patriarch in the family, and he's great in it. Even though it's a really bad movie, He's great, and I think he's iconic in this role.
And his singing is really good too, because like he has like a musical
that
background.
song,
right?
Be Prepared, is so good.
Yeah.
What a great movie.
Be prepared.
It really is.
Can't get over it.
So anyway, yeah, like I said, great movie. What are the highlights of this film for you?
Obviously, Mufasa dying is a lasting impression on me.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's a highlight. Like you enjoyed that.
I definitely did
Fucking
not enjoy it.
sadist.
My eyes almost fell out from crying.
God, the music in that scene is so good. And then when he roars as he's falling, like it's just so effective.
Heart.
Simba realizes what's happening and he's like calling for help. God, that broke my heart watching this as a 31-year-old man.
Oh my
well,
God,
not
when
quite
he's, like,
31.
When he's pushing Mufasa, like,
Help!
wake up.
Anybody?
Oh, God.
Ugh.
Fuck, you have no soul, Alex.
What, did he say that didn't affect him?
I mean, he's not saying anything.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
He
Don't laugh,
deserved
you
it. No,
fucking
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's racist.
Wow. Nah, he didn't have daddy issues like we do.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, God, that scene is so effective. Like, I remember when they announced the live action one, everyone on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook were like, oh yeah, I'm ready to watch Mufasa die again, but this time in crystal clear HD quality.
And we did.
God, that was such an effective scene. It's still just it's like Heath Ledger's the Joker, just when he does that pencil trick, it just
Oh, yeah.
it sticks with you.
Make this
All right,
tinsel disappear.
Alex, what's your favorite song in this movie? Since you mentioned you listen to the soundtrack all the time.
It's Be Prepared from. Yeah.
Be Prepared.
It's so good.
Great.
That's like just hearing like Jeremy Irons' rendition of this is so great, and then I got excited.
There's a shining new era, tiptoeing nearer, and where do we feature? Just
because
listen
he
to
also
teacher.
he's
Oh my
also
God,
in
it's so
Hunchback of
good.
Notre Dame, right? And he also sings Hellfire. I think.
Is he? Is he the
the old man?
the Rolo or Polo
Yeah,
or whatever his name is?
I forgot the name.
I don't think
It
that's him,
is.
is it?
But
I think you're
He-
wrong.
regardless, he's a really good singer.
No, Tony J is
Jeremy
for you.
Irons.
You
And what
fucking
movie are we
idiot.
talking about?
He was trying to say that the bad guy in Hunchback of Notre Dame
Oh.
is Jeremy Irons, and he's wrong.
Goddamn
Fucking
internet.
Alex. Fucking, it's my favorite song, my favorite part of the movie, and I'm just gonna lie and say this actor's in a different movie to sound smart when
It
you're
is
wrong.
right. Jeremy Irons as Frollo.
It's not him. I just looked it up. He is Scar, but he's not. He's not in Hunchback of Notre Dame. God damn it, dude! Fucking bringing this podcast down.
God damn it.
Double D. What was
Yo.
your favorite song in the movie?
Oh, my favorite song? I mean, I have to go Hakuna Matata.
I have to go with either Be Prepared or Just Can't Wait to Be King.
Just in the beginning of the movie, just right
God,
off the
it's
bat.
so catchy though.
There is that little tiny song when Timon and Pumbaa have to make a distraction. I actually really enjoyed that song.
You could be a
Where,
big pig too. Hooey!
Yeah.
So the thing about that
Love
was
it.
that whole thing came about, and I really don't understand this because I know animation takes fucking forever, but they changed a bunch of things based off the actors. So Nathan Lane, who played Timon, ad-libbed like, "What do you want me to do? Put on drag and sing a song, or put on drag and do the hula?"
Obviously,
And
can
so-
put that in a new one.
And then they made that. They animated
Yeah.
that. They also changed Scar's origin in this based off Jeremy Irons. So he had a different design, but they kind of incorporated Jeremy Irons' features into Scar's appearance. And then because he was such an effective villain, they actually changed the origin. Originally he was going to be just a rival lion from like a different pride, but they changed it to make it be the brother, so it has a more personal connection. So you feel even more
betrayed.
angry at him for
Yep.
killing Mufasa. Speaking of Mufasa, do you know how he could have survived?
The same way Simba did.
If he just moved faster.
Good.
Heh. Heh. Heh.
Or he could have been prepared.
Oh. All right. Well, I mean, this voice cast alone incredible. So obviously James Earl Jones is iconic in this role, and he's got an iconic voice. Obviously, this and Darth Vader.
Oh yeah, both times.
Yeah, Matthew Broderick as adult Simba.
I love
Jonathan
Matthew Broderick.
Taylor Thomas, who's that like peak dreamboat teeny bopper
JTT?
celeb as young Simba. You had why am I blanking on his name right now?
Nathan
Mr.
Lane
Bean.
as Timon.
Nathan Lane as Timon. Mr. Bean as Zazu.
Oh yeah,
So-
Rowan Atkinson.
Rowan Atkinson. Yeah, it's so good. Everybody is great.
Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg, Cheech Marin. Yeah, it's an all-star cast, and this movie rips. Like it's like 88 minutes or something like that, and it gets a lot done. It's paced so quickly. It's so entertaining. There's not a wasted frame in this movie, and everything is gut punching. Like when Mufasa comes back, you're in awe. Like you can't remember who you are.
Remember.
Like it's so good, and you just feel so much in those moments. Like you don't want to let Mufasa down.
No, hell no, you don't.
This movie.
God
God,
damn
he's
it.
so great.
God
Yeah.
damn it.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this whole week, even before I watched the animated one again, because I watched the remake the day that it came out. So by the time this episode comes out, it'll be 2 full weeks that the movie had been out. And then I've been singing. What's funny is, and it's not even close to my favorite song in the movie, but the parts of "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" in the cartoon that Nala and Simba sing, like so many things to tell her. It's just so good. Or the when she sings about him, like, why won't he be the king?
Yeah.
I know he's the king I see inside. Oh my! I've been singing that all week. I cannot get this music out of my head. This entire 2 weeks that I've been watching these movies.
Good.
David's
All
been
right,
saying
yeah.
it even
Yeah,
before he saw it.
I could watch it.
Oh yeah.
I've been for the last 2 weeks. I mean, the same thing happened with Aladdin. I was singing
Whole
of
new
the
world.
Aladdin music for the week leading up to me watching movies. The 2
I
full
still
weeks that I was
whistle a
watching
Whole
these
New World.
movies. God, it just speaks to the power of these movies and just how damn catchy the music is.
I think the only thing I didn't like about this movie is how quickly they turned young Simba into not caring.
he's a child, and like he could presumably been wandering the desert for a couple weeks. We don't really know,
I suppose.
and he's young and impressionable, and he thinks that he needs to do that.
Yeah,
He needs to get away and give up his life.
no worries.
Right. And I actually have an issue with the story in general, but I kind of want to wait until we talk about the second one before I bring up a few. I kind of poke some holes in the logic of these movies.
Is it the circle of
All
life?
right, talking lions.
Right.
I like how the circle was like 2 parts.
There's even so many great animal puns that a lot of them come back in the second one. But, they say something like, you're as miserable as a hippo with a hernia. The lion, when it comes to brains, I got the lion's share. Cheetahs never prosper. Like, it's so good.
Even
It's
Zazie,
so-
he was like, "Oh, these kids are getting out of wing."
Right. Oh my God, he's so good. I love Zazu. As an adult, I relate to Zazu a lot more than I did as a kid.
Darn kids.
So originally, the "Can You Feel the Love Tonight," like even as close as to a few weeks before the movie came out, Elton John got to see a private screening, and they cut that song, and he lobbied the producer to get it back in, and so they added the "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" in between Simba and Nala singing to each other, and it ended up getting him an Academy Award for Best Original Song in a movie.
So good.
This also was, obviously Disney kind of did hybrid CG animation. So, Aladdin had some CG stuff with the magic carpet chase. The Beauty and the Beast had some when they were doing the dance. This one had the wildebeest that stampede were actually CG, and it took 3 years to make the
Oh, wow.
software to actually animate that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I don't know when this fax was made, but this was the best-selling home video of all time with more than 55 million copies sold.
Well, I definitely had it on VHS.
I had it on VHS. I have it on Blu-ray.
I have 2 copies of Blu-ray.
Oh my God, it's so good. All right. Anything else that you guys want to bring up before we move on? Because I think we're going to ultimately we're going to go back to this a lot when we start talking about one-liners and whatnot when we go back. The only thing another thing I think kind of funny, when I was typing notes for this on my phone, anytime I typed in hyenas, it kept correcting it to hymen.
What?
Oh wow. Okay. It's
And
It's a lot
one
of
other quick
hymen.
anecdote.
I mean hyenas.
Right.
So we
one
didn't talk
other-
about Rafiki at all.
Okay, let's talk about Rafiki. He's great.
Yeah, I love Rafiki. I was a little upset they didn't do the Squash Banana song in the new one, but
They
I
really
get it. I
cut.
understood.
So we'll get into the new one because I'm confused by it to an extent, and I'll tell you guys why I'm confused by it once we get to it. But
Cool.
one last story about this one before we move on to the new one. So I mentioned earlier that I made my mother-in-law watch this movie
For the first time.
for the first time, and she was asking me what I thought of the new one, and I kind of told her, and obviously you guys will hear my opinions about it later on.
I'm
But
sure.
I'll just do this one now. They only brought one actor back for the remake, and that was James Earl Jones' Mufasa. I think they should have brought Jeremy Irons back. I really do. I think Scar is just as iconic as Mufasa is.
I'd be
And
down with that.
I personally, I like Chiwetel Ejiofor. I think he's an incredible actor. He's in a lot of great movies, but his voice isn't that recognizable, and I don't think he had a presence. So I was talking about that. I told my mother-in-law, hey, I really think that, Jeremy Irons should come back. And she goes, well, he's just really not that good looking of a man. And I go, well, one, it's animated.
Yeah. Okay.
But two, I was like, how dare you? Jeremy Irons is super handsome. And so Katrina was in the room, and she's like, what? And I'm like, he's a good looking dude. She goes, yeah, but he's not classically handsome. I'm like, he's a handsome man. If he's not handsome, then I'm definitely not handsome, and that's not okay.
What?
And then she started saying, like, my mother was like, no, he's really not handsome. I'm like, have you seen him in Batman v Superman? He's an older man, and he looks super handsome. He's aging like a fine wine, and I will fight anybody who says otherwise. And then Katrina's like, you're not gonna fight my mom. But anyway,
I mean, I wouldn't pick him as handsome, but I wouldn't say he's a bad looking dude.
No,
I think he's a good-looking older
dude.
he's a good-looking dude. I'm not ashamed to say I'm secure enough in my masculinity to say that I hope I look half as good as Jeremy Irons looks when I'm his age.
Yeah, for his age, yeah, definitely.
No, not even for his age, okay?
He's like,
if I
that's
was
exactly
a
what he
5-year-old
said.
girl, I would bang him. I'd be like, look at that
I
silver
bet.
fox.
You'd be out.
No, I wouldn't. I would fall in love with. I would be initially
Fall in love
attracted
with
to him.
Jeremy Irons.
I would be initially attracted to him for his
Every
silver
night
fox
before we
looks
make
and his-
it, he sings "Be
his
Prepared."
voice.
It's magical.
as he rolls his condom down.
Prepared.
But
Oh,
yeah.
Jeremy Irons.
Anyway, I would fall in love with. I would be initially attracted by his handsomeness, and then I would fall in love with his voice and his
I'm
demeanor.
starting to believe you wouldn't have to be a girl.
I'm secure enough in my masculinity to just say anybody, male or female, would be lucky to have him.
I believe that.
All right, and I'll fight anybody who
Especially
says that's
Katrina's
wrong.
I
mom.
I do agree with you, Mike. I think Jeremy Irons would have been a better Scar. I think it would have been a more impactful voice.
I agree. Anyway, let's talk about the second one. Who's going to summarize it?
Me.
Not me. I already did the first
This
one.
one's from M. Jambardino. After the murder of his father, a young lion prince.
His fodder.
Spelled F-A-D-D.
A young lion prince flees his
father, can you
kingdom
hear
only
me?
to learn the true meaning of his responsibility and
Of
bravery.
Christmas.
M. Jambardino.
Be brave. Remember.
So I gotta say, watching this movie, so I watched it twice. So I saw it almost 2 weeks ago, and then I got home literally. We were supposed to record around 10. Double D had some stuff going on, so we didn't start recording until almost
Sorry.
10:30 p.m. But I had got home less than 5 minutes before we were supposed to get on to record after going and watching this the second time. Now, the first time I was under the influence of alcohol.
He still
and
cried like a baby.
I still bawled. But the thing that really got me initially was the opening sequence with the sun rising and then the music kicks in. It got me because, like, the sun comes up and it waits, like, a good 5 seconds before the music cuts in. Like, it was a tease. Like, it got me all, like, hard.
Whoa.
And then it didn't happen. Hard mentally. Okay?
Steeled.
Just And then the music kicks in. I was like, oh yeah, there we go. And it immediately got me into the movie. But
yeah.
I want to preface the conversation around the new one. The first time I watched it, I thought it was okay. I liked it, but I didn't love it. The second time, just watching it, I liked it a lot more. Now, I have a lot of things to say about the movie.
So you're saying I should watch it again?
Shut up.
That's what I got out of that.
I would watch it again. If you were on the fence about it, or if you're kind of like, eh. Watching it a second time, I liked it a lot more the second time. Even still, there are some things that I have to say about it. And it's going to sound like I'm bashing this movie. And I think I said the same thing when we covered Aladdin. There are things that were kind of goofy and wonky and things I didn't like about it. But I just want to say, no matter what I say about this one, I did enjoy it. And I liked it a lot. And I think it's worth watching. So take all the negative things I say and just realize we're critiquing the film. It's a podcast. That doesn't mean I didn't like it.
He's not hating on it, guys.
But I'm going to say a lot of negative things about it.
He just sees things wrong with it.
And if I didn't watch it a second time, I probably wouldn't have had many positive things to say about it. So I'm really glad I did. Then anyway, what are some highlights from this one for you guys?
Ooh, good question. I think that whole first interaction with the hyenas, that I think they did a little more intense in this movie. I think the whole movie had a more serious tone, but I think that was more lasting.
I think it was more serious, but I disagree with you on the intensity of the hyena chase. That was one of the few things that I didn't like.
You didn't like the hyena sequence with the tunnels?
No, I mean, I thought the tunnel part was okay, but I feel like the cartoon, there were more stakes. Like the fight scene was the chase scene was a little longer. Simba fights back and actually scratches one on the face in the cartoon. They're going through thistles. They're going down. Now I understand with realistic lions, you're not going to have them go down a giant elephant spine slide. I get that, but I felt like this one was Simba just running around, where I felt like he kind of fought back a little bit more in the cartoon, and I appreciate.
Well, he only had that one scratch for Simba in the cartoon,
and that was he drew blood. Okay,
this one. Well, I mean, this one because Nala said in both movies, I thought you were very brave, right?
She did, but I felt he was braver in this one, or in the cartoon.
In the cartoon, yeah, because he fought back. I get what you're saying. I think this was more of a consoling, though. It made more sense to me because she was trying to console him, hey, I thought you were brave. You fucking roared at him.
Yeah, well, but I think he was braver in the first one. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree that he was braver in the first one.
And I gave evidence as to why I thought it was better, and you need to respect that.
In the first one, I know you got to respect my opinion too.
No, I don't.
In the first one, when she said that, I thought you were brave. I couldn't tell if she was being sarcastic or not.
She wasn't being sarcastic. She's a
good friend.
I
understand that, but
I'm sorry you don't have a friend that can say something positive and you can believe it. I'm sorry you have friends like me.
Me too. What do you think, Alex?
I think I don't know. I kind of I agree a little bit with you, Morgan. I think it's just what lends it to it, though. It's just because of how photorealistic it is. So you do feel it's more real, so you kind of get that intensity with the chase sequence with the tunnels and they're hyenas popping out and then...
when you go to the other chase sequence, so after Mufasa dies in the cartoon, Scar says, "Hey, run, Simba, run like a bitch, run away, don't ever come back, you bitch.
Never return.
You killed your dad.
Bitch.
Get out of here." And then he tells the hyenas, "Kill the bitch." And then he's running around, and there's another chase scene, and he's going through these really thick thorn things, and the hyenas can't get through. I thought that was more intense. In this one, he just kind of runs away. He tumbles down a hill, and they're he's probably dead. I do feel like some of the intensity was gone in this one.
We'll agree to disagree.
You don't think when he runs away from the hyenas the second time after Mufasa died?
One sequence, the final fight was intense as fuck.
The final fight, I don't even think... and I got actually some things to say about the final fight once we get to the end.
Oh, me too. Well, just one thing, actually.
Wait, before...
Yeah, we can talk about it really quick. What's your thing?
Just Beyonce's line, "Lions attack," just fucking pissed me off.
Why?
I don't know. It was totally unnecessary.
It's Avengers Assemble.
I don't
Lions
think it was
attack.
Totally
Avengers Assemble.
I think it was necessary.
No.
It was
they're not gonna let Simba just get attacked by a pack of hyenas and just sit there.
No, it makes sense. I disagree with you.
Well, okay.
So
No,
the issue that I have with it is throughout both movies, Nala can kick Simba's ass. She pins him.
Yeah.
Now, realistically, if they were really fighting, he would have a muscle in the brain, whatever. But she's a better fighter than he is. And there's points where, like, Scar is holding his own against Simba. Like, Simba is not as big as Mufasa. Like, he's not. And Scar's able to hold his own. And, in the movie, in the live-action, photorealistic version, it's only because they're fighting near a cliff and he kind of rolls off the cliff that he defeats, or that Simba defeats Scar. But realistically, like, there's a point where Simba's like, it's over, you cannot win. It's like, he's kind of holding his own against you, man. Like, maybe if Nala was fighting Scar, yeah. But I don't think that Simba was that... Honestly, I don't think he was that critical. Like, obviously, he's like that figurehead and he's the inspirational, like, hey, now's our time to fight back. But realistically, I think the lionesses could have done it on their own.
Yeah,
he's
agree.
just like...
They are strong, independent women.
It's more
who
leadership.
don't
Also,
need no
I
men.
think that's just more it is. It's just...
But he hadn't demonstrated any leadership.
He's just the rightful king.
So look at it this way. Okay, Alex, I'm going to paint a word picture for you. I'm going to paint a scenario for you. And you tell me. I'm going to modernize it. I'm going to make it. So Double D is your supervisor at work, right?
The best manager?
Manager.
Manager, supervisor, same thing. Right? He's your superior in every sense of the word. Right? So let's say he leaves for 6 months,
Don't do it,
a
Tim.
year, whatever, and he comes back, and you guys have another manager, and he's like, "I'm the manager now again. Like, it was my spot." And then that manager goes, "Hey, you left because you fucked up. You killed a customer. You killed somebody. You fucking suck. And then you left all your employees to just fucking deal with me, who's a shitty manager." And then he's just like, "Yeah, I guess you're right. I am a shitty manager." Are you going to rally behind that guy? No.
But wait, it's a caveat that it was actually this guy that killed the customer.
No,
and then
right.
it turns
But I'm
out
saying,
he's
in
like,
that
say it.
instance-
And then he's like, I killed the customer.
But what I'm getting at is, yes, obviously this is but Simba is not an inspirational leader. He left in the first real conflict he had in
That's
his
more
life.
like if David was
just a
Shut up!
baby.
I'm still talking.
he was
He's just a
that's
baby.
exactly, if David was managing me
Okay,
when
no,
he
it's
was
fine.
a
He's a
kid,
child.
and then he comes back as David as an adult.
But still, he left at his first conflict. Now I get his uncle, pressured him to do that, and then he ended up getting chased by hyenas and was behind a thorn barrier. He's a child. I get it. But what I'm getting at is ultimately he comes back after who knows how long, and immediately acts like a bitch, is crying like Scar's like, "You killed your dad.
Yeah, I
You're a
did,
bitch.
so what?
I'm sorry.
It was an
I didn't mean
accident."
to. It was an accident." And then like immediately falls off a cliff. He's kind of a bitch.
Yeah, he's not very respectable there.
No, he's not in both versions. I honestly both versions, both Broderick and Gambino, are bitches.
Are there enough grubs to sustain a lion?
So that was going to be my story thing. So there's three things that this movie gets really wrong about how lions work. So one, the lionesses actually run the pack. Two, black manes are actually considered to be more desirable, apparently. I looked up lion stuff, and they say actually black manes are more desirable. So Scar would have actually been the one in the second movie. Him and Mufasa both wanted to bang Narabi, and Narabi's like, "I'm going to bang Mufasa." But in real lion life, she probably would have wanted to bang Scar with his black mane.
Yeah, but Mufasa whooped his ass.
Yeah, but once you go black, you never go back.
Heyo.
So anyway, that, and then the other thing is they make a big deal about Simba leaving. Well, actually, because once again the lionesses run the show, lions actually don't stick around. The male lions, they'll actually come and go, and they'll try to infiltrate other prides, kill the children, fight the
Spread
male,
their
drive off a
seed.
male, fucking bang all the women in a pride, and then they'll move on to the next pride and so forth. Like, they don't typically stay around. They might go away for years and then come back.
I mean,
to
if
the
they did that
original
with
pride,
Lion King, it would be a completely different story.
Yeah, it's a rated
So
R
I
movie.
think we need to start talking about some of the differences in the movie. I do have to say, or some of the casting things. I do have to say, I thought Seth Rogen was
Yeah,
perfect.
he
as
was
Pumbaa.
pretty good.
Yeah, that was great.
He was so good. I liked how when he's like a weembo wep, a weembo wep, a weembo wep. The kid he kind of laughs when he does
Seth
it.
Rogen laugh.
Yeah, and he's very meta. Like Timon and Pumbaa in this one are very, very meta.
Yeah, totally.
So when they introduce themselves, they introduce the phrase Hakuna Matata. There's like silence for a couple of seconds, and they're like, normally we get a huge response around this. Normally there's applause, and then when they're singing the song, and he goes, "Nobody ever stood downwind when I farted." Right?
Yeah.
In the
Aren't you gonna stop
cartoon.
me?
In the cartoon, Simba or Pumbaa, not in front of the kids. And this, isn't anyone gonna stop me? Farted and everything. And then they also go to see when at the end of Hakuna Matata when they're walking across the bridge.
Simba's riffing.
Simba's riffing. They comment on it. They're like, "This is our catch song. Like this is
This
our
is our signature song." Yeah.
But then they also say, "Man, you've grown like 400 pounds since we've started the song." And then they also go to see, when they in this version when they go to do the distraction instead of the hula thing, they get Pumbaa looking like a nice snack, and then Timon starts to sing Beauty and the Beast song, "Be Our Guest," and then like it's I thought that was hilarious how meta it was.
That was great.
Yeah, that actually got me a laugh when he started. It's like, oh, he's like Garcon or something. He started speaking a French accent. I started cracking up.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
That was
it's
good.
going that way.
Really
It's
good.
great.
Right.
So how'd you guys feel about Childish Gambino?
So the first time I watched the movie, I was very underwhelmed. I thought him and Beyonce both kind of sounded monotone and kind of phoned it in. The second time, I thought that it sounded better.
Maybe I need to watch it again.
The second time, I
feel
thought they
like-
were way better.
Well, I only watched it once, but I felt like Glover fucking mumbled a lot.
Yeah.
I think he did as well. I think Beyonce, I don't know if Beyonce recorded her stuff first and they made the child actor mimic Beyonce, but I think there was a better synergy between the child Nala and the adult Nala. I think they had the way they spoke, their cadence, the way they enunciated things were similar, where young Simba and old Simba, they didn't kind of speak the same way. I gotta say, I think young Simba in this was better than Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
JTT.
I thought he was much more believable. I thought he sounded more playful.
Yeah,
I think
he
the
did.
only time that JTT did better, because JTT didn't sing, this kid did sing the music
Yeah,
for
it
it,
was good.
was when Mufasa died. I did think JTT's desperation was better. Like, help me, somebody, anybody. Like, that hit me hard. So on this one, he's just like, help. Like, I don't think my father died.
He
kind
wasn't
of
as
expressionless.
frantic as in the cartoon. So,
No,
I mean,
he
it-
wasn't.
It hit differently, but when he lay down next to Mufasa, oh my
God.
fucking
Yeah, when he laid down. I gotta say, just from a technical standpoint, this movie's incredible.
Oh yeah.
There are
It looks
times
great.
in it where you forget that you're watching a animated film.
Yep.
It looks like real life, especially like
For
that
sure.
mouse at the beginning with Scar.
Yeah.
That looked like
Well,
a nature documentary.
I was like, how did they get this mouse to do that?
This is actually
It's
a point I wanted to make
insane.
because like I mentioned it to David that it felt like a Planet Earth documentary at times.
It did. They shot
And
it
then,
like that.
There was that sequence though when he gets to that jungle. I thought it looked a bit weird. It's like very green and you see Simba. But what I wanted to make the point I actually want to make though is I felt, how did you guys like the animation style compared to the 2D versus this one? Because like I felt you lose some of that emotion kind of thing.
I agree.
I agree with you too. This movie had a much more serious tone to it, I think.
And I don't think that was necessarily on purpose. Like, I think the issue with it is when you watch the cartoon, like I'm going to use Zazu as the best example because he has a beak, which is hard and clearly isn't going to flex. In the cartoon, it flexes like a mouth and everything. It curves and everything. And this, like when Zazu speaks specifically, it just looks like a ventriloquist doll, just like opening and closing. Like it doesn't work. Same thing with the lions. I honestly think the bigger the creature, the less real they looked incredible. They looked real, but I mean the less expressive they looked. Where I thought Timon, because they gave him big kind of glossy eyes, I think he was able to emote a little bit. I think Seth Rogen was able to get more emotion through, even though his mouth just looked
he just
like it was
looked like
flopping
a,
as well.
a really dead pig, to be honest. Like compared to Pumbaa in the cartoon, where he's like very expressive and he's like wearing a hula hoop and whatever.
The thing that I thought was crazy was how good Pumbaa looked. Like Pumbaa, I thought all the animals looked pretty close. There are times where obviously when they're talking, they don't look real. But the thing, for some reason, Pumbaa looked like he was not animated at all. Like he was maybe like an animatronic. Like he looked so real. Like his texture, and maybe it's because he has less fur, and fur is harder to animate than flesh.
Yeah.
But he looked, I think he was the best character model.
Well, also, like to your point, you couldn't see his mouth moving as much because it's like under his
Under a
face.
snout.
Yeah.
But I just think his character model's incredible because it was mostly obviously skin with just tufts of fur, where fur is hard to animate. But yeah, I was blown away by how good Pumbaa looked in this movie.
I thought the whole movie looked great, but yes,
it's there are times where you forget that you're watching an animated film and you really think you're watching Planet Earth or
so good.
Whatever. It's insane. And the shots, like the scene when Pumbaa is running from Nala,
Oh yeah,
that chase sequence, and like, oh my god, that looked incredible. Oh, it's so good. I like I guess maybe we talk about the music now. How do you guys feel about the music in this?
I didn't like
It
Be
was cool.
Prepared.
Yeah.
Be Prepared was not as good. It was like
They obviously changed some.
It was
lyrics,
just
right?
like-
it was
Speak
most of the
singing.
lyrics weren't in it, and it was it was like Kesha
Kesha.
sing talking. I'm trying to think how it was.
I mean,
Brush
overall,
my teeth
like,
with a bottle of Jack. Like it's not quite singing, but it's
Melodic
not quite
speaking.
talking. Yeah. And I kick him to the curb if he don't look like Mick Jagger. Like that's how it is. I thought I Just Can't Wait to Be King was better in this one. Now the sequence itself isn't as over the top because clearly
Right.
it's supposed to be
Can't
realistic.
make hip
But I
hopes
think the
stand under
vocal
us.
work is actually better than the original. What do you guys think on that?
I mean, like for all songs, or you mean for just
For
that song?
for that song.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I do think it was a lot more fun in the first one, but I do think this was a better song delivery.
I think the production. I agree that the other one's catchier and a little more upbeat, and but I also think part of that has to do with watching all the animals like stacking up and then they end
Yeah.
up falling and everything.
Zazu running into the butt
Right.
of the hippo.
This one having to be a little bit more realistic takes some of that fun out, but I think as a song, it's better.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I think with Can You Feel the Love Tonight, I think that while Childish Gambino, Donald Glover is a great singer, he's nowhere near as talented as Beyonce.
Yeah,
I don't think they matched.
dude. Honestly,
He's-
like, I don't like Beyonce's recent music because all she does is yell, but her singing in this was great.
She has an incredible voice. And
Oh,
she's very
dude,
talented.
I miss it. I miss it. I miss her singing
She
real songs.
is so much better than
I don't.
Glover is. That like you can clearly tell that they like layered her tracks, a couple decibels higher than his because he
I don't know
doesn't
what
sound as
happened
good
because
as her.
there's some performances he gives where he's really good. I was excited to get to him.
He's
but
good. No, he's
this
really good.
whole
Like he still sounds
performance
great.
and even like
he's
his
just not as good as
acting
Beyonce.
parts, like you guys said, he's just very monotone and not into
The
it.
second time I saw some more nuance to it, it still wasn't great. And I think once again that just comes to lions only moving their mouths up and down, and so you can't really get that emotion in there. The same thing like I thought John Oliver as Zazu was
Music,
great.
yeah.
He's not that much different than Rowan Atkinson.
Right.
The delivery is more or less the same, but he was great. I don't think the hyenas were as good.
Keegan.
Like you
No.
had,
I really
you had
wanted that
Keegan,
laughing hyena.
Ed.
Yeah.
So you had Keegan Michael Key as the basically the main, not the
Kamari.
main.
Well, yeah.
No, they don't have their names are completely different.
And
So he kind of played like the second in command
Andrew-
hyena.
and-
His name was give me a second.
Kamari.
Yeah. And then you had Eric Andre as Azizi, who is like I couldn't really tell them apart, honestly, their voices.
No, I couldn't either.
And then talking about Rafiki, you mentioned, they cut some of his stuff out. He spoke like I think Swahili most of the movie. He didn't have as much stuff to do.
Yeah. Well, he
in
spoke
this one.
mostly to himself in this movie.
Yeah. The other thing that I didn't like about this Rafiki, he's lazy. Okay?
Yeah, he didn't.
So
do
in the
that.
cartoon, when he lifts Simba up, he's standing when he's lifting. He's really presenting that cub. And this one, he just like sits down and lifts him up.
I mean, it's more realistic.
Lazy.
I guess. I don't know. But what I didn't like
Shut
is
up.
what did you guys think of the tuft of hair that like went through this weird journey and we watched it?
I kind of like that because it demonstrates the circle of life.
How do you know it was Simba?
Did he smell it?
Bro, dude, he
Smell like shit.
He has a
You
kid
know?
for that time. No, I mean Simba had the brownish yellow fur. It's a little bit different than everybody else's, so it clearly had to be him. He just knew, okay? He's a shaman, bro. He was able to make bugs, put a bunch of bugs up on a tree and blow
That was
dust
really
on
cool.
it to make
I
art.
like that.
Okay? He's a shaman. He's a monkey wizard.
Did you guys? What did you guys think of like how he convinces? I like how he convinces him in the cartoon more than in the live action one. No, it's
exactly the same. It's
He-
just
No,
instead
he
of
didn't
having
sing the Squash Banana song.
that was just
And
him running.
he
But I mean, like
gets him over
ultimately,
it by-
it's looking in the water. There's your
also
father.
because
You see
okay
he's
in the
in you.
cartoon he's like all Timon and Pumbaa are like the past like they kind of train him about the philosophy, and Rafiki's like, here, let me hit you in this head.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
and he's
fair
like,
enough.
that is
Yeah.
the past, but it still hurts and stuff like that. It's different.
Right.
I still got the bump to show it.
Okay, I feel you on that one. Okay, I do like that. I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one.
All right.
Remember.
You wanted that one.
Oh, this is a great feeling.
I guess it makes sense not to have the full on Mufasa in the cloud. Like you kind of see lion shapes here and there.
Yeah,
in
that's
the
cool.
clouds.
I liked it.
Going to I did like how they kind of changed the when Pumbaa goes to fight the hyenas, where they just call him Chubby instead of calling him Pig. Like, who's the pig? Call me Mr. Pig. But I liked this one where it's like, I will always run from hyenas, but I'll always fight a bully kind of thing. I thought that was great. Yeah, I thought Seth Rogen was perfect. Like, I think he
was really
owned this
funny.
role. I thought he was great. I loved how he was like laughing. I liked his little. I liked how they had the puns. Like, yeah, I think you got your lines crossed. And they're like, hey, nice. I liked how they were pretty meta.
I like the commentary he had
Yeah,
leading
it
up
worked
to
out.
"Can you feel that tonight?" Because like he was like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" Oh yeah. It's just it felt very like Seth Rogen.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. That was great. I liked Billy Eichner as Timon. I thought he was great. I think he's kind of a very similar actor to
Yeah.
Nathan Lane, but he did some of his own things to it. I like how he was kind of like, I don't have be quick. Tell me your problem in as few words as possible. I did like that. Actually, the more I'm talking about this movie, the more I actually like it. So
There's a lot of good stuff.
there is a lot of good stuff, and going in, if I didn't watch it the second time, I probably would have gone into this thinking it was bad and not really having much to say, because I do agree with a lot of the reviews that a lot of the emotion is gone, because realistically the way we communicate is it's only like 20% is what you say, and 80% is inflection, facial expressions, body language, and the body language and the expressions are gone
Right.
in this. So I can see why people didn't relate to it as
The
much.
funny thing is, like,
as the
I was
original,
trying to think, like,
because-
why didn't I have this problem with Jungle Book? Because like Jungle Book,
Jungle Book was a little bit more cartoony, though.
I also
think.
think it's because
It-
like
it wasn't
we
quite
had a
as realistic.
boy that anchored it, so we can kind of see like, oh,
Right.
he's angry, so clearly the bears are
And also
Yeah,
he's reacting to them.
Right.
And so how you're supposed to react because you can
But
see
with
his
this one, it's a
expressions.
bit more.
I think that was
harder,
part of
'cause,
it.
Like,
And it was also, the Jungle Book was a little bit more stylized. It wasn't like, it was very photorealistic, but not quite as photorealistic as this.
Right.
But overall, I mean, from a technical standpoint, this movie is a marvel. Like, it's an incredible. It's
It
like
looks
200.
amazing.
This movie costs, I think, something like $260 million. Like, it's cost as much as like Endgame or Infinity War, or really any of the Avengers movies. Like, they spent a
I think
ton
it
of
just
money
hit
on this movie.
1 billion.
Didn't they already make
Yeah,
a bunch of
it's
money
hit
too?
1 billion.
Yeah, it's gonna cross $1 billion. Like, they made their money
I think
back.
they said it did.
It may have already. Let me check as of now. Boop, 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 doop, boop, doop, boop, boop. This is hold music. Boop, 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 doop, boop, boop.
Be prepared.
That did bum me out that one wasn't on there, really.
I got excited. Like, I was like, oh, I think this is the song. And then he's saying it, and then he just says, "Be prepared." And I was like, no, that was it. Okay.
He wasn't as condescending to the.
No, it was more of a
No,
rally.
he wasn't.
rally song. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as of 2 days ago, it didn't quite hit, but it'll hit $1 billion if it hasn't already.
I think I saw an article that said it did today.
Oh, the actual song, the a weemble wep, a weemble wep. I liked how all the other animals kind of came in and I actually liked that it wasn't just Timon, Pumbaa, and Simba. There was Timon, Pumbaa, Simba, and all the other creatures.
You guys got any antelope to eat?
Oh, it's just you, Simba. Huh?
Yeah. Huh? What? Don't eat us.
Oh, it's just you, Simba. It's not a lion. I mean
like a real lion.
Like,
hey, you want to grab
I'm just
some
gonna
grub? Yeah. I thought that was great. Going into the end, it's whatever. I don't necessarily think Simba was the best fighter. I don't think he was inspirational.
The Circle of Life.
Whatever.
So, the new one kind of makes me question it a bit more because I don't quite understand how does it work out. How's that whole system work out? Like, do they just sacrifice
What do you mean?
one of themselves to the king to eat? Like
what? No, they don't sacrifice themselves. They still hunt
because they're protecting.
They give them an opportunity.
But they also eat them.
So what he's saying, so the whole thing is what Simba says, or not Simba, Mufasa is, yes, we prey on them, but we need to show restraint. We need to give them, land and water. They all serve their point, and we can't overhunt them.
Yeah.
We need to be responsible and maintain this ecosystem. Now, that being said, I got to tell you that maybe Scar does deserve to be king. And I'll tell you why. He disposed of an authoritarian ruler, and he does open up the kingdom's wealth to the oppressed minority and the hyenas.
But then they overhunted.
Right. They did. Now, they did, not take care of the resources that were given to them. But part of that was, if you really think about the ecology and, nature and whatnot, they're blamed for climate change. They're blamed for ruining all the plant life and all the water going. If they killed all the herbivores, then actually plant life would grow. But if they ran out of water, that's not them unless they dammed up something. But no, they're saying that they overhunted. They cannot have been responsible for the water going away. So realistically, it's very possible that they didn't even really overhunt. If there was a severe drought and a lot of the herbivores left because there's no food, because their food's not growing, because there's no water, there's just less herbivores, and maybe they're hunting the right level, but there just wasn't enough herbivores to be around to be prey.
Then they just got to knock
down
from 20 to 1 in that case.
Now, that's the thing is, realistically, they should have, some hyenas probably should have died. There wasn't enough food, and that would have happened. So if the course kept going, yeah, some of them would have died, and things would have equalized. But look what happened. Simba became king. They were only a couple months away from rain.
I still,
Simba being king didn't automatically make it rain. That doesn't make any sense.
If they had hired me for this job, and he's like, I'm gonna eat one of my employees, but I'll let you guys roam around, I don't know if I would want to work there. Like the whole.
No, I'm not saying they need to eat the hyenas.
You can.
Okay, you guys are idiots. You guys know how this works. It's resources. It'd be like hours. Hey, right now, come join me. I've got to. It's like when you as a manager in a department, you say something along the lines as like, "Hey, I've got more hours in my department. Come over and I'll give you more hours." And you bring people over, and initially they get a bunch of hours, and then hours get slashed.
Just got real.
And so some people have to have less hours. Some people quit. Some people leave because they're not getting enough hours. They're naturally selected. Some stay because the people who are performing really well stay and they still get more hours. But the people who are underperforming get less hours, and they could choose to, survive with what they have, or they leave and go somewhere else. And that's ultimately how life works. Nobody's saying that the Scar should have eaten the hyenas. I'm saying that some people would have to have less. Some people would have to leave and say, hey, we can't support you. This is what I have to offer you. If you don't like it, go somewhere else.
Wait,
bitch.
Did we clarify if Simba could survive on grubs?
Oh, no. So anyway, yeah. So I looked it up. So lions, a typical male lion will eat anywhere from 45 pounds of meat a day, but can eat up to 200 pounds. So 45, they need about 45 pounds of food every day. So to eat 45 pounds of grub would be insane.
He would have knocked down that entire jungle.
Yeah, there's just no way. There's no way.
Well, that's why he
There's no way.
looks a little
No way.
malnourished.
Right.
That's
And he's
why
not
he
as
was the
big.
same
His,
side of Scar.
he's not as big as Mufasa. His growth got stunted because he's not getting
But
enough
he's not
protein
Scar
and not getting
skinny.
enough calories. He's not quite skinny as Scar. No. Okay, I've got one other thing. This is the thing that I don't understand for either version of the movie is what was, and they don't really say what was told to the Pride, but what did Scar say happened? Because when Simba comes back and he's like, you are responsible for his father.
Me too.
Well, duh, like he was down there. He wasn't ultimately responsible. Obviously, we know Scar, but even if there was a stampede, he can't control that. And
Maybe...
Mufasa did his job as a father to try to save him. So what did he tell the Pride happened? Because the Pride didn't blame
He told
Simba
him that Simba
for
died.
it. And then when...
So they all thought he died.
Right.
And
Right. So, but my thing is, he survives. Why does that automatically make him a bad guy?
it didn't.
Especially
what
now
made
they
him a
understand
bad guy
because
is
they
that
find
Scar
out.
was like, "Did you tell him the truth?" And then that's because they
But
were all
he-
excited that
he
that
just showed up. Clearly,
They
that
were all
didn't
excited
happen.
that he was alive. That's why Nala was like, "Oh my god, what happened?"
But no, but my point is, he says, did you tell them you're responsible for Mufasa's death? And his mom was like, no, it can't be. You know Mufasa died trying to save Simba. Like, why is that big of a deal?
But it
He's
also
a
bothered me
father
because
dying
he
for
said
his
he
son.
didn't
That's
make
what's
it
supposed
to
to
the
happen.
gorge in time, right? Scar said he didn't make it to the gorge in time to help them.
Well,
Right.
But Zazu knew he was at the gorge.
oh yeah.
In this one, yeah, absolutely.
So Zazu just kept that secret?
I guess.
Whatever.
I don't
Damn it,
fucking
Zazu.
know.
Damn it, John Oliver.
Damn it, John Oliver. Other than that, I mean, I don't really have much to say. The more I talked about it, I do think Be Prepared sucked in this version. Just gonna say it. Sucked. But overall, I do think it's not as, for lack of a better word, animated. I do think Jeremy Irons would have made a big difference in this. I think if Jeremy Irons was in this, it would have bought me even more goodwill.
Remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
One more thing, and then we'll wrap it up. So because this movie, and no joke, this thought crossed my mind as I was watching this, because this movie looked so real and it looked like a nature documentary, for like a split second while I was watching this the first time during the "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" scene where they're kind of like going around and like they're, they lick each other, which is the equivalent of like kissing and making out. For a second, I thought Simba was gonna mount Nala.
Oh, Jesus.
Just because it's like, if it was a Planet Earth or a National Geographic show, it would have been shown. Like, that's what would have happened. So for a split second, I was like, fuck, are they going to show him mount her? And then I was like, no, this is a Disney cartoon. That's not going to happen. But I honestly was just sucked into it this whole movie, thinking these were real lines at certain points. And I was like, dude, he's going to fuck her.
What went through my head was like, I was wondering, like, could you do a Lion King story with just like narration, like Planet Earth, where they're like, and now the cub is coming to.
No.
And here we see Simba returning to his pride.
I would watch that. I would see that.
This line we call Scar. He and his brother Mufasa fought over the love of Nairobi, and Scar
was Sarabi.
is never. Was it
Sarabi?
Sarabi, and he never was quite the same. I think
It kind of fits. Like, I could see it.
Also, the original Homeward Bound. So Homeward Bound was a remake, which we're not gonna do on this one because I covered it on Remake or Ruin My Childhood, and it's fucking awful. But the original apparently was just narration.
Huh.
There was one in like the 50s that they just like narrated what the animals were doing.
It seems
Anyway.
that Scar has made an unlikely
Double D.
friendship in the hyenas.
Ask the question.
Or should it have been remade?
I think this is a valid remake. I think the only thing, I don't think this one really added anything. The only thing that was, the dialogue's 90% the same. Really, the only scene that was added, and it didn't really change the story, was Nala escaping and leaving. Like, we actually see her doing some, like, Solid Snake shit to get out.
And Zazu helps.
And Zazu helps. But I wish that, just like Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast, I wish it did a little bit more that was different. I think this is the closest of the Disney remakes to being a shot-for-shot remake.
Yeah.
But
He did
overall,
well.
I mean, from a technical standpoint,
Yeah,
it's incredible.
looked
That
amazing.
that alone, I think, is
worth.
seeing it for.
Yeah, I definitely think it should be seen. Like I said, the whole movie just had a more serious tone. It wasn't as playful as the original, but still a very good movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe if they made, I just don't know where that line is. Like, do you make the creatures less photorealistic so you can have them emote?
It would make it like Jungle Book. I mean, like you had the bear and
Baloo.
Baloo, yeah, Baloo and the panther. What the hell is the panther's name?
Bangalore.
Shiar, Shagwar.
Bagheera.
Bagheera. Yeah,
Bagheera.
Bagheera and Baloo had,
Jaguar.
both their faces had a lot more expression than these lines.
Right,
These
and-
were,
But
realistic.
I do think that makes it look more like a cartoon than this. So
Yeah.
this movie had one shot in the entire movie, and it actually came out today. John Favreau shared it on Instagram and Twitter. That was an actual real footage in the whole movie. There was one shot, and he bet that nobody could figure it out without him sharing it. And apparently nobody had. But you guys want to know what shot in this movie was actual footage? Yeah, it's the very beginning of the movie as the sun rises, right before. Yeah, that was actual
Banana
footage.
squash.
Yep.
Cool.
Cool. All right, Alex, did you
Alex,
say
did you-
what do you think? Remake? Is it valid? Is it
Okay,
not?
so I saw this movie on a Thursday night, and I unfortunately saw it. There was just a bunch of kids in my theater, and I felt like a creep. But thankfully, there was an old couple behind me. A lot of the kids didn't really seem interested in it. They kept talking and crying.
Really?
The old couple was the only ones that.
No, the
No,
kids-
they were all like little.
I saw it with a bunch of kids, and they were
The kids
laughing
next to
and
me
clapping.
definitely cried.
The
when
old
Professor
couple
died.
though, they liked it. the old man was like, "Oh, I remember this scene." I don't know. When I was watching it with that crowd, it made me question like, who is this more geared towards? And I feel like
Right,
Us.
which I get. I can get that. But yeah. Anyway, did you like it? Did you think it was a valid remake?
For the technology, it's pretty. It's visually very nice.
Okay, well, thank you guys for listening to Remake Rewind. And
Remember.
check us out on Podcoin, the podcast app that gets you paid to listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
If you want a bonus 300 coins, you can use our invite code REWIND, REWIND. If you want to support the show, you can check us out on patreon.com/MDXpods if you want to chip in some money, get these episodes out early. I always try to get these episodes out at least a day early if I can get them out earlier. They're exclusive to you for a short time, and it really helps us out, pay for the web hosting, paying for us to rent the movies and whatnot. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Check out our other great podcast, Ruin My Childhood. And you can check out everything that's MDX Pods related at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at MDX Pods.
And here we see the sun setting on this particular
Be
podcast.
prepared. See you.
Night, guys.